My hands smelled like bleach, not because I cleaned, but because I needed to. When you spend the night before your wife comes back from a work trip scrubbing floors at 2:43 a.m., it's not about dirt. It's about nerves. It's about distracting your mind from questions it already knows the answers to. My name's Halden. People call me Hell. I'm not poetic. I'm not dramatic. I just notice things, like how the bed still had a dent on her side, even though she hadn't slept there for 5 days. Or how our dog, Duffy, stopped sitting by the front door after the second night she was gone. Even he sensed it. She was in Phoenix, supposedly, a resort leadership summit. 3 nights of panels, 2 more nights for bonding. Yeah, bonding. You ever hear someone lie and realize it wasn't the words? It was the pause before the smile. The night before she left, she double-checked the airport ride on her phone 3 times. She took a shower right before bed, did her hair like she was meeting a photographer at baggage claim. She was humming. She hadn't hummed in 6 months. She left with a hardshell suitcase that still had a tag from a trip we took to Maine 3 years ago. I noticed it because she was careful to peel it off this time. She looked up and said, "Don't want them scanning the wrong code." I don't think she meant the airline. Anyway, she texted me a few times while she was gone, mostly short. "Long day. Super tired. You'd love the hotel bar here. No selfies. No video calls. Not even a miss you." So, when she came back Sunday afternoon, all bright and breezy, wearing a jacket I hadn't seen before and carrying a tote bag that wasn't hers, I stood near the kitchen island and watched her with the eyes of a man who finally understood something far too late. "Hi, honey," she said, dropping the keys in the bowl by the door. "You wouldn't believe the heat in Arizona." I didn't answer. I just watched. And I saw it. That tiny glitch, that half-second lag between her joy and her recognition of my silence. She was walking toward me when she stopped, froze really, noticed the island counter, the 3 items I'd laid out carefully, not to threaten, not to accuse, but to remind her that I wasn't stupid. Her hotel receipt, a printed screenshot of her Find My iPhone history, and a napkin from a bar in San Diego, not Phoenix, with a room number scribbled in her handwriting. Her joy drained like someone punched a hole through her ribs. I didn't say anything. She reached for her phone, probably to come up with a story, maybe even to call someone or delete something. But it was too late, because in that moment, the silence between us was louder than anything she could ever say, and she knew it. Not because I caught her, but because I'd already stopped loving her 5 days ago, and she could feel it. That was the real panic, not the proof, the distance. The way I looked at her like a guest in her own house. She tried to smile again, a smaller, more human one. "Hal, listen. It's not what..." I walked away, straight past her, into the backyard, sat on the deck, looked up at the sky like I was asking it for one good reason not to burn my entire life down. She didn't follow me, and I didn't want her to. Not yet. I still had more to say, but it wouldn't come out in that moment. I needed her to sit with the silence she'd earned. And it was just beginning. I didn't move for almost 40 minutes. Just sat there on the deck, staring at the tiny cracks in the wood I kept promising to seal every spring. She didn't come out, not once. And that was already answer enough. I didn't need a confession. I didn't need a sob story about how it just happened. What I needed was a pause. A moment to measure what kind of man I'd been and what kind of fool I'd let myself become. Duffy laid down beside me, his head on my shoe, like he somehow knew that if he left me alone now, I might actually come apart. I scratched behind his ear in silence. I'd never been one of those men who tracked their wife's phone or read her texts while she showered. I trusted her because she'd earned it, or I thought she had. But you don't need to snoop when the truth starts to bleed through the edges of your reality like a leak under wallpaper. You just have to pay attention. And I had. Too late, maybe, but I had. When I finally stood up, the sun was already fading behind the neighbor's hedges. The house looked calm from the outside, but I knew inside it was coiled with tension, like a live wire. I walked in and found her in the living room, curled up on the edge of the sofa like she was afraid of touching too much space. Her arms were crossed, but it wasn't defensive. It looked more like she was trying to hold herself together. A cracked version of the woman who used to fill this room with her voice, her energy, her light. Now she was just muted. She looked up at me like she had something rehearsed. A monologue, maybe. Something with just enough remorse to sound convincing, but not enough truth to actually land. But I didn't give her the chance. "Tell me the city," I said quietly. She blinked. "What? The city? You weren't in Phoenix. So where were you, Nadine?" Her jaw tensed. I watched her calculate, hesitate, grasp at options. She didn't know whether to double down on the lie or pivot. I could see the fight behind her eyes. But the real betrayal, it wasn't that she went somewhere else. It's that she never expected me to find out. That's what hurt. The quiet arrogance of it. "I don't want to do this like this," she said finally, her voice almost breaking. I nodded slowly. "Then how do you want to do it? A slideshow? A dinner presentation? Or do you want to call him in here and let me ask both of you where the hell San Diego came from?" Her eyes widened. For a fraction of a second I saw fear. Not guilt, not shame. Fear. That was confirmation number one. "I didn't plan it," she whispered, staring down at her knees. I didn't say anything. Just walked past her into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and grabbed a bottle of water. Took a long sip, trying to keep my hands from shaking. When I turned back around, she was sitting up straighter, like she'd finally decided on a strategy. "It was just 2 nights," she said. "I went with..." She stopped herself mid-sentence. "With someone I work with. We'd been talking for a while. It was harmless at first. He made me laugh. I felt like myself around him, not just someone's wife." I almost smiled. Someone's wife. Like I was a title she accidentally picked up at a garage sale. "I never meant for it to go anywhere," she continued. "But once the flight was booked, I don't know. I wanted to feel something different. Something new." "You could have said that to me," I said. "You could have said anything instead of pretending. I didn't want to hurt you." That's when I finally let the silence crack. I laughed. It was dry, sharp, almost cruel. "You didn't want to hurt me, Nadine? You scheduled a lie. You packed a bag for it. You shaved your legs for it. You built a weekend fantasy on top of the grave of our marriage and had the audacity to come back smiling." She started to cry. Not loud, not dramatic. The quiet kind. The kind that makes the air in the room feel heavier. I didn't comfort her, not because I wanted to punish her, but because I didn't trust my own hands not to tremble. "I wanted to tell you," she said through her tears. "I was going to. I just didn't know how." "You didn't need to," I replied, voice steady now. "Your body language did it for you. Your silence did it. Your phone told me, your hotel told me, and your damn receipt for 2 brunches with champagne on a Sunday morning told me more than any words ever could." She buried her face in her hands. I turned toward the hallway. I didn't want to see her crumble. Not yet. I wanted her to sit with it. Not the guilt, the gravity. The reality of what she'd done. Not just to me, but to us. To the version of us that had lasted 13 years, through job losses, relocations, 2 miscarriages, and 1 open-heart surgery. And now it was all sitting on a napkin with a hotel logo and a fake room number she thought I'd never question. I stood at the threshold to the bedroom we used to share and paused. "I'm sleeping in the guest room," I said. She didn't argue. She didn't beg. She just nodded. And I realized then, whatever this was, whatever we'd been, it had already ended days ago. I was just the last one to be notified. You think you're going to yell. You think there's going to be shouting, maybe broken plates, maybe even packed bags. But when betrayal enters quietly, it doesn't give you the energy for rage. It just settles somewhere deep behind your ribs and sits there, like weight you can't exhale. That's how it was after I moved into the guest room. I started noticing things I hadn't seen before, or maybe just didn't want to see. The little scratches on her nightstand from her wedding ring being taken off and set down too often, too carelessly. The text tone that never went off anymore when she was home but seemed to chime nonstop the moment she left for errands. The way she started locking her phone screen with a double tap instead of letting it rest open on the couch beside her like she used to. For days, I didn't speak to her unless I had to. We shared space like coworkers in a dying office. Polite, sparse, Procedural. She avoided eye contact. I didn't push. I was watching. Not her, but myself. Watching who I became in her absence. Watching what kind of silence I allowed between us. I wasn't eating much. Not out of spite, just couldn't. The taste of food didn't sit right. Everything felt artificial. Even the coffee she brewed smelled like her lie. I kept staring at old photos. Not because I missed those days, but because I was trying to find the exact moment she started fading from them. Because now, every image felt tainted by a version of her I hadn't known existed. I wasn't angry. I was disoriented. That's what they don't tell you about this kind of betrayal. It's not pain that hits you first, it's confusion. Not, why did she do this? But, who was she while I loved her? One morning, I woke up before the sun. No reason, just couldn't sleep. I walked into the living room and found her there, fully dressed, just sitting on the edge of the sofa, staring at her phone like it might tell her something she wasn't ready to hear. She didn't notice me right away, and for those few seconds, I saw her not as my wife, but as someone who knew she'd permanently broken something and didn't know how to live with it. When she finally saw me, she flinched. She said nothing. Neither did I. It was then that I realized whatever she felt, guilt, regret, fear, none of it would ever match what I felt. Not because I loved her more, but because she had control. She made a decision. I was left with a result. Later that same day, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it ring, but something in me told me to check the voicemail. The voice was calm, male, unfamiliar, and terrifying in its ease. "Hey Nadine, just checking if you made it home okay. I'll wait for you to text first. Stay safe, beautiful." He didn't know he left that message on my voicemail. He called the wrong number. And just like that, every ounce of doubt, of benefit, of possibility that maybe it was just a moment of weakness disappeared. It wasn't a mistake. It was routine. It was real. It was recent. And it was still happening. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. I saved the message, listened to it 5 times, then 6. Not because I needed proof, but because I needed to understand the tone. How a man speaks to a woman he knows is lying to someone else to be with him. He didn't sound excited. He sounded entitled. That broke something new inside me. Not because she slept with someone, but because she made me the fool in someone else's joke. And she thought I'd never hear the punchline. But I did. And I was done being quiet. You'd think the voice would haunt me, but it didn't, not in the way I expected. It wasn't the words. It was the tone. The comfort in it, the kind of voice you use when you're not worried about consequences. That's what stayed with me. That this wasn't a mistake she panicked over. It was a situation she managed carefully, regularly. He spoke like they'd done this before many times, like they had a rhythm. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there, listening to the hum of the ceiling fan and the distant bark of some dog 3 houses down. The silence between those sounds was unbearable. I thought about moving again, not out of the room, but out of the house entirely. I had a friend with a cabin up north. He owed me more than a few favors. But running felt like surrender. I didn't want to disappear. I wanted to observe, like a scientist watching the last stages of decay in something once alive. I began to watch her differently, not out of anger, but out of curiosity. She was quiet now, more than usual, avoided my eyes. She started folding laundry in slow, deliberate motions, like each towel might unravel her. She paused longer at the fridge, forgot the kettle was boiling, wore socks that didn't match. Small things, but they added up. It wasn't guilt. It was the weight of knowing I knew, and not knowing how long I'd let her live with that knowledge in silence. Strangely, I became more calm, more precise. I cooked meals without asking if she wanted any, cleaned only my side of the sink, washed only my clothes. When I heard her crying behind the bathroom door, I didn't knock. I didn't listen. I didn't even feel pity. I just noted it, stored it in the back of my mind next to every excuse she gave, every pause between her answers, every word she spoke that didn't belong to the woman I married. On the 3rd day after the voicemail, I got a message. Not a call, just a text from a number that wasn't saved. It said, "Still good for this weekend? Same place. I didn't reply. I didn't confront her either. Instead, I deleted the message, took a screenshot first, and sent it to an email address I created the same night I heard his voice. A blank inbox. A digital archive. I labeled the message evidence number 3. I didn't plan to use it yet, but I needed to know it was safe, somewhere away from her reach, somewhere she couldn't edit or explain away. Some nights, I imagined what she said to him when she left our home. Did she mock me? Did she call me dull? Did she say I never paid attention, as if that excused whatever they did in dim hotel hallways and car seats? I started replaying our old conversations in my mind, not for comfort, but for contrast, to feel how far we'd fallen. Her laugh used to reach me like sunlight under a closed curtain. Now, even when she forced it at the TV, it sounded foreign, staged, hollow. Not because she couldn't laugh, but because the part of her I loved wasn't there anymore, and I had no idea who'd taken it. The scariest part wasn't that she had cheated. The scariest part was how easily she returned, like it was normal, like I wouldn't feel it, like love could be deceived by perfume and routine. But I wasn't deceived anymore. I was preparing, quietly, because she wasn't the only one capable of planning something in silence. Monday, she left early for yoga, at least that's what she said. Her mat was in the car, same as always. She came back 47 minutes later. Hair not sweaty, skin dry. No water bottle, no receipt from the smoothie place she always used to stop at afterward. I didn't ask questions. She didn't offer answers. But the hallway smelled like a different cologne than mine. That was the first thing I wrote down. Tuesday, she made dinner for 2. I never said I'd be home. I watched from the street, didn't go in right away. Lights on in the kitchen. She checked her phone, stirred the sauce, looked toward the door twice. No second car in the driveway. No voices through the window. Just her, pacing, nervous, overcooking pasta. When I entered, she smiled and said, "Didn't know when you'd be back." I said nothing. We ate in silence. She left half her plate untouched. Wednesday, I stayed late at work. Not for meetings, just couldn't bear to go home before dark. She texted me once, "All okay." I waited 2 hours, then replied, "Still working." No follow-up from her. When I came home, she was asleep on the couch. The TV was on mute, a paused frame from a movie I know she's seen 3 times already. Her phone was on her chest. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. The glow of it against her cheek said enough. She was waiting for a different name to light it up. Thursday, she did the laundry for both of us. Folded my shirts, left them on the bed. I unfolded each one, checked for scent, for residue, for anything. They were clean, too clean. She'd rewound the relationship, trying to pretend nothing was broken. I stayed out of the bedroom that night, slept on the couch. She didn't ask why. She never came to look. Friday, the voicemail replayed in my head all day. Not the words, just the confidence. His, hers, the ease of it all. I took a drive, not to escape, but to clear space in my head. Parked outside a motel, stared at the neon vacancy sign for half an hour. Not because I needed a room, but because I finally understood the kind of places they probably used. Places where no one asked questions, where names didn't matter, where guilt could be folded into white sheets and erased by checkout time. That's where my wife was. Saturday, she wore a dress I hadn't seen before. Said she found it at a boutique in Tempe. I checked the tag when she wasn't looking. The store name was based in California. Different city, different lie. She curled her hair, wore perfume, said she was meeting an old friend for coffee. I didn't stop her. I just said, "Drive safe." She nodded, grabbed her keys, and left with the ease of someone who believed the man she betrayed was too gentle to act. I stood in the hallway for 6 full minutes after the door closed, listening to the absence she left behind. Sunday, she brought home pastries. Said she thought I'd like a pecan Danish. I hate pecans. She knows this, but I thanked her anyway, ate it in front of her, swallowed every bite without blinking. She sat across from me, legs crossed, tapping her fingers against the mug. I watched her watch me, and I could see it. She was waiting for a reaction, a question, a snap, but I gave her none of it. Because I wasn't keeping score. I was keeping distance. And the more she tried to act like everything was fine, the more I realized she had no idea who she was living with anymore. And that was the only advantage I had left. Friday, 6:42 a.m. She left the house in a navy blouse with a missing second button. It was not the blouse she wore to the office 2 weeks ago. Different brand, unfamiliar cut. No explanation offered. She said she'd be back by 4 o'clock. 9:13 a.m. I checked the shared calendar. No meetings scheduled for her department. Her company wasn't hosting any events. The last team-building outing was in March. This wasn't business. 12:05 p.m. Our neighbor's daughter, Cassidy, spotted her downtown. Not at a cafe, not near her office. She was walking alone on South Bellevue, near the boutique hotel district. Cassidy recognized her from the back. The red heels gave it away. She was headed toward the parking garage behind the Claremont Suites. Alone. 2:39 p.m. Her phone location showed a 5-minute gap. No movement. That doesn't happen unless the phone's in airplane mode or deliberately powered off. She turned it back on at 2:44. 3:57 p.m. She called. Asked if I needed anything from the store. I said no. Her voice was normal, no stutter, no hesitation. Flat as a screensaver. 4:12 p.m. She came home carrying nothing. No store bags, no groceries. Nothing in her hands but her keys. I asked how work was. She said, "Standard chaos, you know how it is." 7:30 p.m. She said she was tired and went to bed early. I stayed downstairs, played music quietly, washed the dishes I didn't use, let the house breathe without her in it. 9:18 p.m. I walked upstairs. Her bedroom light was off. I listened through the door. No movement, but her phone buzzed once. She didn't answer it. 9:22 p.m. I unlocked my own phone, opened the backup app, one I installed 2 weeks ago. One image had uploaded automatically from her phone's camera roll during that 5-minute airplane mode window. The image showed a hotel bed sheet, slightly wrinkled. A man's watch resting near the pillow. Her leg visible in the corner. No face but no doubt. No caption. Just the file name. img_8483.jpg. 9:25 p.m. I stared at the image for 3 full minutes. Then I archived it. Did not save it to my gallery. Did not write a note. Did not cry. Did not blink. I simply tapped Store Safely and let the screen go dark. 9:40 p.m. I walked to the garage, started organizing tools. Not to use them, just to remember I had control over something. The wrench, the hammer, the extension cord. None of them lied to me. None of them smiled while dismantling my dignity. They sat there, still and silent. 10:11 p.m. The fridge made a noise, the kind it makes before the motor kicks in. I thought about how machines never pretend. They break, they stall, they hum, but they never cheat. 10:29 p.m. I returned to the guest room, laid down, closed my eyes. I didn't sleep. I rehearsed. Because the next conversation we would have, it wouldn't start with why. It would start with, when did you decide I wasn't worth honesty? If you want to understand betrayal, start by removing romance. It doesn't help. It muddies the process. Strip it down to function. Think like an engineer, not a poet. Start with the first point of failure, the shift. It rarely announces itself. One day, the routine becomes choreography. Movements rehearsed, words prepackaged. You won't notice the smile is a fraction slower, the laugh half a pitch off, the hug lasting just a second less. Not at first, but it's there. A system recalibrating, just not for you. Next, the camouflage. A good betrayal learns to wear normalcy. She'll still pour your coffee, still ask how you slept, still leave the light on when you work late. But it's not for you anymore. These gestures become a screen, not affection. Just a pattern she can hide behind, like makeup on a bruise. Familiarity, weaponized. Then, the misdirection. She will manufacture noise. New projects, new friends, vague stories with just enough detail to feel real but not enough to follow. You'll be encouraged to relax. Don't overthink, she'll say. You always imagine things, and so you'll stop imagining. That's the point. At this stage, trust becomes a liability. You'll get fragments, a receipt without context, a voicemail not meant for you, a hotel name said too casually. You won't confront, not yet, because you're still hoping for an explanation that will make you feel stupid for doubting her. But instead, each attempt to rationalize will fracture something quiet in you. That fracture is irreversible. After the fracture comes the silence. Not the quiet between arguments. The deeper silence where the distance is no longer about what's said or not said. It's about what's already understood. She won't explain because she knows you already know. And you won't ask because you know the answer won't fix anything. By this point, love has turned into observation. You study her like a stranger in your kitchen. You learn how she blinks when lying, how she glances at her phone sideways when the wrong name appears. You learn her new tells, not because you want to expose her, but because you've stopped recognizing the version of her you built your life around. And when that happens, when recognition fades, you don't need a confession. You just need one final moment to confirm what's already broken. That moment usually arrives quietly. In my case, it was a text I saw on her phone, 5 words long, from a contact labeled only with an emoji. Tell him I'm still yours. No panic in her tone, no apology in her eyes. She just looked up when she noticed me reading it, held her breath. I didn't yell, didn't ask, didn't speak. Because betrayal, when it's complete, doesn't demand volume. It demands clarity. And in that instant, I was clear for the first time in months. There is a final phase most people don't talk about. It doesn't come with shouting or closure or revenge. It's called extraction. The moment you begin removing yourself from what tried to bury you. I didn't announce my departure. There were no suitcases at the door, no theatrical goodbyes, no lectures on morality or promises of regret. I made one phone call. A man named Curtis, old friend, owns a place upstate. Quiet, modest, enough. He owed me nothing but offered everything. I'll send you a code, he said. The keys in the lockbox. I printed my documents. Not out of anger, just structure. Documents with my name and hers. Joint accounts, utilities, the lease. I divided them into 2 folders, untangle and close. In the 3rd folder, I put nothing. Labeled it memory. Left it blank deliberately. She didn't ask where I went that morning. Didn't follow, didn't text. I didn't expect her to, because when something ends cleanly, truly cleanly, there's nothing left to negotiate. The cabin was quiet, too quiet maybe, but necessary. For the first time in months, I woke up without hesitation. I made coffee, strong, bitter, the way I used to like it before I pretended to enjoy her oat milk vanilla syrup routine. I walked outside, let the cold hit my lungs like a reset button, and I didn't feel grief or loss or relief. I felt weightlessness. She didn't destroy me. She just freed me from an illusion. And now I read again. I cook for one. I answer my phone only when I want to. I leave dishes in the sink if I feel like it. I wear what I want, go where I want, speak only to people who look me in the eyes and mean what they say. I even met someone at the market. She smiled while comparing apples, didn't ask anything from me, didn't lean in too fast, just existed, honestly, and that was enough. No, it's not a love story. Not yet, maybe never, but it's peace. And sometimes, that's the best ending betrayal can give you. A second life where no one gets to lie for you again.